back from the dead. Back from the dead.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're all invited to go fucking mental on this motherfucking drop. The countdown has just begun. Are you ready? Let's go, 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 go.
Now we're back from the dead. We're back from the dead.
Hell yeah.
Back.
Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. 2 weeks in a row, we are good to go. We're back on track. I'm so excited. This is a paranormal podcast for those of you that are brave enough to join the circle. And today I have my homegirl Elfie with me. What is up, Elfie? I haven't seen you in like 400 years.
I know, no kidding.
I know we've been busy, but it's been a really good busy. We can't talk about what we've been busy with, but you know what? It's okay. We can't complain. Life's good right now, you know?
Been productive. It's good.
Exactly. So today is a really cool stream. I've been wanting to do a stream like this forever. Lake monsters. And you were pretty fascinated by this topic too, right, Elfie?
Oh yeah, this is definitely one of my favorites. I mean, cryptos is not my strong suit, but this was one of my favorites.
So you do like crypto, like me. I think we're kind of both in the same boat with the crypto thing. Like we've talked in the past about you've gone to visit Mothman. Now, if we were to investigate like Loch Ness Monster, how would you approach it? Would you jump in the water like Josh Gates did?
Give me a snorkel, I'll go diving. I don't think so. I would definitely want to go take a boat out and just explore the depth of it. I mean, but that was brave, just jumping in. I agree.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite hosts, like overall of like paranormal hosts. Like I love Josh Gates because he has no fear and like he does. And Erin Ryder, do you remember Ryder? I follow her on social media.
Oh.
She like raced a freaking ostrich. Like she is like so badass, you know? But so I follow her on social media. But yeah, I agree. I don't think I could do some of the things Josh does just because. And he like spelunking in caves, like when the water is coming in, like that scares me. Does it you?
Oh yeah, I like caves. Like I'll go into the mouth of the cave, but when I hear a person go like, "Let's go deeper and like explore," I'm like, "No, I'm good. I'll stay here." I don't know. I've always had that fear of mainly tight spaces, and then the idea of like, "Oh look, there's like 10 tons of rock over top of me that could just squish me at any."
I'm the same. I'm like Colorado has so many beautiful caves too, and you can go inside them. They have like tours. Like there's beautiful caves in Glenwood Springs I've been to many a times. I'm talking like full of crystals and like stalactites, like beautiful stuff. But like I get so scared when I go in there thinking like it just takes one earthquake and like I am gone in the depths of the earth forever. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, like Penn State, like at State College here, we have the Penn's Cave and we have the caverns here, and I've actually taken the tour through the underground like cavern we have. It's like it's pretty open, so it's not as frightening compared to spelunking with water coming in. But it's very beautiful, and we have a huge cave system here too. We have like all through the Appalachian Mountains and everything, so there's a lot of interest in cave exploration around here too. So it's
See, all my friends in Colorado would like go like hiking and like they go down in those caves with just like rope, and I'm like, I don't trust myself, first of all. Like I've always said like the horror movie, like the dumb blonde that dies, that's me 100%, and I'm willing to admit that. But like, yeah, Josh Gates going in those splunking caves while the water is rushing in, where you only have like a couple of minutes to get to the other side of the cave while the water's low, is like, that is way too much adrenaline for me. You know, like that's enough adrenaline to cause me an actual heart attack, you know?
It's like, let's see how fast you'll run when the water comes down. Move it.
Yeah, there was that one episode where he was literally like gasping for air and like the crew was like pulling him, and I was like, no, Josh, it's no.
I mean, like, it's amazing because usually when people are like, there's that dangerous spot over there of something strange, and he'd be like, I'll go that away. Because there's no survival instincts there.
I'm like, I always talk about natural disasters. I'm not good with natural like Colorado was known for having like tornadoes here and there. Like luckily we were on the west, I grew up on the west side of Colorado, which there's less tornadoes because it's not the plains where like all of the farming is on the east side of Colorado, but once in a while you're still gonna get one. And I literally, one time I was at my aunt's house, I think I was in like 8th grade, and her dog got stuck in one of the rooms. And because when a tornado happens, it like sucks all the doors and windows shut. And we couldn't get the dog out, and everyone's like, just go to the basement, like he'll be fine, he'll hide under the bed. I was like, no, I have to save the dog. And I literally, Elfie, like I'm in 8th grade and I ripped the door off the hinges, like actually. And I got the dog out. My uncle was very angry with me because I ripped the door off. But yeah, natural disasters, I'm just not, you don't want me there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the one that's like panicking, like running in circles, you know? So, going back to caves though, that's a really necessary chat to have with some of these lake monsters, because these are lakes not just susceptible to, you know, actually United States. We are going to be touching on a couple of them, but also abroad, one of them being Scotland with Loch Ness. But it's interesting where and which lakes are these, quote, chosen lake monsters. Most of them have underwater canals and like ways out to the ocean, or like little rivers. And so it does make you, well, big rivers, let's not call them little. So it does make you wonder if they transport sort of in and out from like whatever their natural habitat is.
And it would actually make a lot of sense, because given the size of some of these crypto creatures are, it would almost have to be necessary for them to be able to leave the body of water to either, to really probably go eat or feed and move about, because some of these lakes are big, but are they big enough to legit be able to sustain something this large
and for that long? So, and by the way, thank you, Laura, for the cheers. We appreciate you. Yeah, for that long, because if Loch Ness has been around for maybe possibly thousands of years, how is it able to survive for so long by itself? It makes you wonder. So now, before we start the stream, like, what's your, I'll give mine after you. What's your general take on not, I mean, you can be specific, but like lake monsters in general. You can talk about Loch Ness, I don't care. Like, do you think they're real? Do you not think they're real? And either way, why?
There's a possibility of them being real. Just like you were saying, there are caves and canals and ways to get in and out of these lakes and everything. I think it's entirely possible, because some of these lakes are so deep that we haven't been able to fully explore them and everything. So we can't say for sure. I mean, we're still discovering underwater life. I mean, it's almost like the water's both man-made but lakes and oceans are still one of the most unexplored areas of our world, like spaces. So I think it's entirely possible we could be still encounter maybe something we thought had gone extinct, or even a new evolution of creature or something. Just because we haven't encountered it yet doesn't mean it's not real, and it's entirely possible, especially if there's ways in and out of the lakes.
Well, and it's so cool too, because I've even seen, these aren't necessarily quote lake monsters, but you've even seen some monsters that reside down in like Antarctica, and they look like these like slithery snake things that are like full of ice that are slithering through, or they think there's like the giant octopus, that are down there. Like, there's so many theories, and I think it's over 90% of the ocean hasn't been discovered yet, and there's still like microorganisms and species being discovered like to this day. So what makes us think that they're not smarter than us and they can't sense the sonar or sense when people are like seeking it, and then they jet or like hide, or there's ways to like get away from it?
Well, that, and we're discovering more creatures that survive in environments that you would think be totally unlivable, but they have somehow adapted to almost like highly toxic waters, and you see things still thriving in there. So there is such a realm of possibility for it.
Well, and even putting it in the realm of possibilities. Recently, there was a report that's been done where, obviously global warming's happening, and there's creatures and beings coming up from the depths of the ocean because their feeding habitat is shrinking, and so they're needing to find other ways to eat. And there was a group of scientists. It's not a megalodon. So if you've ever heard of a megalodon, it's like one of the largest sharks that's like ever lived on the planet. But it was like a ginormous shark that came up to feed. They were trying to bait trap and watch sharks, like great whites, in this particular area. And it was like the biggest captured shark they'd ever seen on camera. And they weren't there. They had like the camera operator like viewing like, down under, because it was so deep. But that's proof that like we don't even know still what exists down there. We have no idea.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was only recently that we discovered that the giant squid was actually a thing. It wasn't just maritime legend lore. They've encountered live giant squids down in the depths and whatnot. So I think anything is possible in these waters that we can barely even see past our own hands and everything.
Well, yeah, that's what you pointed out earlier, is like some of these lakes are so murky and dark and deep. People are like, oh, why haven't you found Loch Ness yet? Like, why? Because like it's damn near impossible. Then you imagine like debris being blown in, or trees falling over and falling into the lake for however many hundreds of, thousands of years. Nobody really knows what's down there. Now, Loch Ness particularly is 800 feet deep and 20... I was shocked it's 800 feet deep. I was shocked.
And it's like, and if I remember correctly, you go down to a certain depth, you can't see anything, and not even probably lights wouldn't work because it is so thick and murky that light wouldn't probably really penetrate through anything.
Well, and is it even like 800 feet, or is it more? You know what I mean? Like, are we certain these like technical instruments that we're using to measure are that of accuracy? Or could there be other spots in the lake that are scanned that you don't really know how deep it is or where it goes? That's
true, and also you have to take into account, like you were talking about, with global warming and the geography changing, even the bottom of the water could have changed and expanded or shifted over time too, because we don't know when was the last time it was even checked and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, they have had thousands of people, I know, try to find Loch Ness. And nobody's found like a photo of it or anything like that. Now, another interesting thing though I found out was Scotland actually banks a lot of tourist money off of Loch Ness. Like, you don't even think of stuff like that. So they literally have stores set up with like Loch Ness, stuffed animals and, lunch boxes and cups and mugs and t-shirts. So they really depend on that tourism to like keep the country going, which is just really interesting to me. You don't think about stuff like that in the economy.
Oh yeah, like they probably make bank on it, like said and whatnot. So I mean, I could see them also not wanting, like, it's one thing for people to go searching for Loch Ness, but they probably really like turn people away. Like, please don't go hunting for Loch Ness.
You really? It could
Don't do that.
harm their like economy if somebody killed it, or if it was really infinitely found that it didn't exist. I think it could potentially harm the economy of Scotland. Like, you don't think about stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, now the only other flip side I see is like we have our own like monster in Raystown. Now it's been shown that it's not real, but there's still a tourist and there's still a tourist community around it and everything, and there's still even like you can buy things with Raystown Ray creature and everything. So it's still thriving, and even if there's possibility it's not a real thing, but with the Loch Ness, that would take a huge hit to them if anyone ever proved it was absolutely not real or somehow captured it, which would be just crazy in itself.
I don't think it could be captured at this point just because there's been so many people look for it and it hasn't happened yet. Like, in my opinion, if it exists, it's got to be smarter than us.
I would think so at this point, for as many people who've gone out there, like I said, that have tried to, it is probably figured out where not to be.
We have a ton of facts, but one thing I do want to run across too is Kat has a theory she came up with because she's really into like monsters and weird crypto and stuff, and her theory is, which we've talked about before, Loch Ness may have been a I don't know if you want to call it a pet, maybe worshipped as an animal or dinosaur through Atlantis. And then when Atlantis sunk or went underwater and there was like I guess you would probably consider that some sort of a tsunami when that happened, that Loch Ness didn't really know where to go, and it sort of found harbor in this, area of Scotland.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe that it was something already known to them at the time, or like something that interacted with people at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you had the sinking, and then it got basically displaced, and then maybe found Loch Ness and everything.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating that it would make sense because Atlantis was known for being extremely geniuses that were on the planet because they were getting help from like star people up above. So I like her theory. She has some really cool theories. So I just wanted to drop that as like as an interesting one to sort of like meditate on. So you did a lot of the research for Loch Ness. So there's tons of underwater caves. Caves? Hello, Krystal? Hey, everyone. My name is Krystal Leandra. It's my second time back streaming in like 6 weeks. And I can't talk. Nice to meet you. Okay. Underwater caves and caverns. Then some of them actually are little canals that will lead you back out to the ocean.
Yeah. So there's a way in, way out, and everything. And it is a freshwater lake, but it does connect to the salt water. So it is not totally contained. I think that's one of the big things probably when you're looking at like cryptos and everything. Is it a contained lake? Like, is it, because like most lakes have some sort of water system coming in unless it becomes stagnant and everything. So I think it's one of those, like, is there a way in and out, and how big is it too?
Right.
And from what it sounds like with Loch Ness, it's possibly big enough that something could go in and out that's a large animal. So
in theory, this would be like a dinosaur essentially that survived being extinct. I know, like, we don't know. Like your guess is as good as ours, but like considering the image they've created Nessie to be, what's interesting to me though is like, let's say for negotiation's sake that Nessie does exist. Not anybody's been eaten by it, so clearly it's like a vegetarian diet or like a small diet, right? Like, is that what you would think?
Yeah, I would think. Yeah, okay, let's go on theory that the size of Nessie that they have described is quite large. I mean, it could also be something of dinosaur-like, but like shrank over time because of lack of food and whatnot. But yeah, it's most likely would be either a herbivore, so it would eat the plants in either around the lake or in the bottom of the water, or small mammals or small fish would be its main source of diet and everything, because something that large would have to eat a large amount of food daily to be able to survive at all. And also the other thing you have to think too, both reptiles and amphibians, technically speaking, if there no harm comes out, if they don't get sick or injured or anything, they can live a very long time compared to us. Like, they can live almost indefinitely if they have the perfect environment for it.
Oh yeah, look at turtles, for example. They can literally live hundreds and hundreds of years old. In fact, it's because I have a friend that has a turtle, and she had, like, literally, legit, she had to go get a will, and she has to will her turtle to somebody when she dies, because she's not going to be 200 years old for the turtle. And, like, they can live 200 to 300, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy that you have to think of, like, creating a will just to keep your turtle going. Like, you know, if I die, who's going to take care of Raphael and Leonardo? You know what I mean?
The tortoise in, is it, like, a zoo in London or something that's, like, been around since Queen Victoria time, and they have photos showing the tortoise from, like, 150 years ago, and they're like, yep, this is the same tortoise. It's been around since then. Yeah,
there's one that was with Einstein and somebody else too, like Tesla. I think there was a picture of him, and you're just like, geez, they just live forever. There's one girl I follow, so cute. What's her name? Shoot, I can't remember. It's on social media. It's on TikTok, and she has a pet turtle that she had when she was like probably 5 years old, and it's 19 now, and he is 170 pounds. And she had to create like a special outdoor area for it, and she also has to will it to somebody when it dies. It's crazy. Like, so you're right, reptilians, especially in the water, they're away from people. People, you know, in my opinion, do the planet the most harm than any other creature, and they're away from people. It's in the water. It's able to self-sustain itself. It is not impossible, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, like I said, as long as it doesn't get sick and doesn't get injured and has a source of food, it's good to go. It's great.
Which is crazy. And then if it floats out into the ocean to get some air or something, nobody's gonna see it out there floating around anyways. You know what I mean? So
also we wonder, like, is this the only one? Like, is there more than one Nessie? Maybe
it makes you wonder, like, is this one been around really for that long, or is there multiple? So goals for Ghost Girl Diaries, 100% is going to Scotland. 100. Tiptoe is the turtle. You need to look up Tiptoe on TikTok. He's adorable. Okay. Tiptoe the turtle. Oh my god, he's so cute. She feeds him flowers, and he legit smiles. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but he does. He smiles. So, but it shows, like, she'll once in a while do TikToks where she shows he was this little tiny turtle, and then it's 170 pounds. I'm like, you don't think about it can grow that big. What are you gonna do when it gets that big? You know. So, okay, Loch Ness. Let's get back to Loch Ness.
Yep.
So the story of the monster is actually older than I thought it originally was. You said that it can be traced back to like 1,500 years old, right?
Yeah, I was very surprised when I looked at it. I'm like, wait, it goes back that far. I thought it was honestly early 20th century thing. I didn't think it was that old.
I'm reading it through. And so this is through like Irish chat and stuff. And they called it River Ness. And this was as far back as 655 AD. Are you serious?
Yep.
I mean, I don't... realistically, could a creature be old as 1,500, 2,000 years old? Or is it a family of them?
Well, also you have to think, too, like, animals that large don't usually have... Like, you'll see... I think this is one of the problems with, like, the endangerment of, like, whales and such, is they only have one or two babies in like a long span of time, so they're not breeding massively, so it might have had like a baby and you're just seeing one or two maybe at a time. So
true.
And they could be living like a couple hundred years.
Yeah, because whales are pregnant for like 6 or 9 months or something like that, right? I think so. So you're right, if it's a big mammal or big reptilian, it wouldn't have like a bunch of babies.
Yeah, especially for its size, too, because for its size and also the size of its environment, because that's the other thing, like, a lot of times the environment, the food will factor in whether or not they have babies or how many they have and everything.
And if there's a Mr. Nessie around. Of course,
Well,
although, so, now, I don't know if people know this. I only know this because of Kat. Thank you, Kat, to all your reptilian knowledge. Kat has a bearded dragon that she has had. Oh my god, that thing is human, I swear. Like, I'll be on the phone with her on speakerphone, and, like, Lily is... We both have animals named Lily after Lilith. Like, we love Lilith because, you know, who wants to be Eve when you can be Lilith? Anyway, her reptile is named Lily, and we call her Lily for short, and I have a cat named Lily. And Lily will hear me on the phone, and she'll run towards the phone. Her damn bearded dragon. Anyway, long story short is we found out when she first got the bearded dragon, it was gifted to her from somebody that had too many and needed someone to take care of it. She only has one, but we found out that reptilians can impregnate themselves. I know that sounds crazy. So Lily can technically impregnate herself and have eggs. Now, yeah, and like, but now she's a little teeny bearded dragon. Of course, back in the day, if you look up bearded dragons, like when dinosaurs existed, they were literally the size of dinosaurs, which they have now shrunk down into, like, you know, this size, and they're obviously native to Australia desert. But yeah, her bearded dragon, we found out that literally they say if your dragon gets too comfortable and you give her the perfect environment, she will reproduce by herself. So I think that's a really good point to bring in with Nessie, is that if Nessie is reptilian, we don't know what she is, I would assume she is, some reptilians can reproduce without a mate. Isn't that crazy?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, they snakes too. A female snake could mate with a male snake, but not, like, actually, like, almost hold off on fertilization of the eggs for some time if the environment is not perfect for them and everything. So they'll do the mating season, but then it'll be like months down the road before there's actual fertilization and everything.
So it's interesting. You don't think about that stuff. You're like, okay, well, if Nessie's by herself, she can't procreate. No, that may not be the case.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
It is amazing. Talk about some badass females, man. Female reptilians like, I don't need no man. Okay, I'll do it by myself.
I got this.
I know Kat found out she can get her bearded dragon fixed, and she's like, I think I'm going to, like, just to be safe. Just because, like, I don't want... Because they can lay up to 150 babies or something at once. And I was like, oh my god, Kat, what are you going to do if your bearded dragon has 150 babies? What are you going to do? She's like, Krystal, shut up. You're giving me PTSD. I'm panicking. So, yeah, and I was like, well, Lily looks very comfortable, so we better just get her into the vet soon so that we can get that taken care of. So, yeah, it's interesting. So Nessie could be a one-and-done shop type of girl, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, the accounts go back to 565 AD, which is super, super crazy to me. Obviously, she's able to swim very well. And it's claimed that they think the monster bit a swimmer at one point, right? And this was this older? Was this an older report? I think back in the 1870s.
Oh, yeah.
1870s, they claimed to see something wiggling in the ground, and they claim a swimmer was attacked. I don't know if I totally believe that. If a reptilian is that large in the water, do you think it's just gonna bite you and, like, go on with its life? I think it's gonna, like, drag you under.
See, with that, I can see, because you have to think too, like, the bulk of the body is large, but the head of the Nessie might not be so big as well. But I have heard about, like, sharks, what they most times people encounter is because their vision, I think, is not that good. They'll bump into something or bump into a person, and they might, like, not take a bite, but try to kind of figure out what is this food or is this not food?
Is it a food source?
Yeah, bumping into someone, maybe taking a bite, trying to figure out is this food, and then find out it's not, and then swimming away and everything.
See, in my head, and that makes sense, but my head thinks of, like, a snake, like an anaconda in the water, or even an alligator. And I don't know. I hate the circle of life. I can't stand it. I know it happens on this planet, but I don't have to like it, okay? and I don't like seeing other animals get eaten because I don't like the circle of life. I really don't. It bothers my empath. But snakes and alligators will drag their prey underwater to drown it, and then alligators in particular will bury it and then come back later to it. So that's just my thought which is good to have both sides of us, you know, like it's good to have Elfie's perspective and mine, which is if Nessie's gonna bite somebody. But then you could also play the devil's advocate and say, well, yeah, maybe Nessie bit it, but like didn't realize it wasn't a plant, and maybe it's an herbivore.
Yeah, I think that's where it comes back to. It's like, is this an herbivore or an omnivore? I don't think it's a carnivore, because I don't think there would be enough food source for them to survive if that was the case. And everything.
I agree with that. Yeah. And if you look back to dinosaurs of Nessie's stature, which I don't have the names in front of me. I used to love studying dinosaurs in school though, but the dinosaurs that always had the really thin, long necks were always herbivores. And Nessie is similar with the, like you said, the little teeny head.
Yeah, I think because usually you see it pictured with a large bulk body, long neck, and then a small head. So I believe it's more likely on the herbivore, maybe omnivore if push came to shove, if it really needed to eat, but most likely more herbivore.
And if it did eat something, it would be small, like maybe other like fish or maybe even birds. It has to be small though. I don't think it could eat something large. Yeah,
something it could easily get hold of, because the other thing you usually see it with, you don't see it with like sharp teeth. It looks like it has like more like grinding teeth and everything. You never see it like, oh yeah, it's a sharp like teeth. It's like, it's more like grinding plant teeth.
Oh, I want to see Nessie. I just want to pet her. I just want to pet a dinosaur. You know what I mean? Like, Nessie, come home with me. You can live with me in the desert of Vegas. I'm sure you won't survive long, but like, let's put you. I don't want you to be alone. We'll get you a really big tank. You know what I mean? Jesus. Okay, so going back. So May 2nd, 1933. This is when Nessie became like famous and a thing. And this was when people claimed they saw something rolling, like, you know, snake-like rolling in the water. And they started talking about it, and they basically thought it was a whale. Like, no, it's not a whale. It's too big to be a whale. It's thinner. And we're kind of chatting it up. And then this is when the picture gets taken, which is the infamous picture that we all know of Nessie.
Yeah, that's like in all the paranormal books I ever come across, dealing with cryptos and whatnot.
And people tried to debunk the photo. It's claimed that the photo's been debunked. I don't know how you can claim that. You know, like, you'd have to go back to 1933 and see, like, the technology they had, the boats they had, the accessibility that they had. Like, you'd have to really skim it down. So for people to be like, oh, we're just claiming as it's debunked, we're going to debunk it. It's like, how do you know? You can't say that. You know what I mean? But
I think they'd be like, well, we don't know if it's real or not. We can't say 100% certain. So, like, you can't be like, well, you know it's not real. Well, how do you prove it? Well, we just know. It's like, that doesn't help.
Well, we can't say it exists or it does not exist, and in my opinion at this point, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say that the picture's real, and I'm not going to say that the picture's fake. I think that, I don't know, don't you think it's kind of like paranormal? Like, a lot of people get mad at me because they're like, Krystal, why don't you argue with skeptics? I'm like, because it takes that person having an actual paranormal experience for them to be a believer. I'm not here to prove it to them. They either experience paranormal or they don't. I feel like crypto would be the same way. You either experience it or you don't. Like, how do you, like, okay, Mothman, you went and investigated Mothman. I know you didn't, like, see him per se, but like, being in his environment, doesn't that make it more real?
Oh, yeah, being, like, near the areas, near the TNT areas and everything, it gave the possibility that something could be living out here, something unusual and everything. And we even, like, explored the possibility of it could be sand cranes and all sorts of different things and whatnot. And it still could be that, but walking around the area, it's like, I could see something unknown living here and possibly be encountered. And I mean, with skeptics, honestly, they've already made up their mind. it's already done. You can tell them everything until you're blue in the face, but they have already decided from the get-go this is not real, and there's no way. It's not even a matter of wanting to convince them. It's more like, I just like to have a discussion with you, but you've already made up your mind. So I guess we're not going anywhere.
I don't argue with people because it's like, I can tell you all my experiences, but like, you either have experienced it or you haven't. And if you're trying to like empathetically understand what I'm saying with my experience, you're not going to understand because you've never experienced it. So, and I feel the same way with Nessie. I feel like if there are people, because there's two groups of people that are out there. There's people that infinitely say Nessie does not exist, and then there's people that say even when they have been to the lake. Shout out to Britt for subscribing. Thank you. Even when they have been to the lake, they say they think they've seen Nessie. So there's a group of people out there that truly believe. So once again, you have to go back to the intelligence of Nessie, which is like, you know, Elfie saying it's an ancient creature, Kat saying it could be from Atlantis. Does it choose who it wants to show itself to people based on like energetic? I think animals are more in tune than humans.
I mean, also, if it's been around, let's say if it is, there's more than one Nessie, and they usually live a couple 100 years, 300 years, who knows how long, but a couple centuries. Animals figure out patterns, and they figure out the patterns of how things work around them. And I could see it finding out where people have boats out, where people explore, and what parts of the lake to avoid just interacting, because most of the time, most wild animals don't want to interact with humans to begin with. They know already to avoid them. So if this thing's been living long enough, it knows where not to be.
Right. I agree. And with that being said, too, you're talking about an ancient creature that's living underwater who, you're talking about all mammals or reptilians underwater have sonar that they hear, and they can hear things. Like, even crocodiles can swim, like, horribly fast, right, underwater, because they can hear the waves moving, they can hear animals in the water, whatever. They, like, almost can see the radar from their ears, is what they say. Like, human spectrum of hearing and seeing is so small compared to animals, especially creatures that live in water. So I feel like even if someone was supposedly, quote, hunting it, it would know, because it would hear, it would sense it through sonar, however that's going on, like whatever their extra senses are, being a reptilian underwater. So people don't think about stuff like that. They're like, well, oh, there's been ships go out there and do sonar and try to find it. And it's like, well, have you ever considered it's probably smarter than humans, even human technology?
And for the depth of the lake, I mean, they could have sonar down. It just has to go a little deeper, and it's good.
Or even the caves could be blocking the images or something.
Well, yeah, for the murkiness, and who knows how many ships and vehicles and other debris has...
That's true. Who knows how many ships have gone down there? I'm sure there's shipwrecks everywhere. You know what I mean? So I'm sure.
So, like, sonar shows, like, oh, look, there's a big body of thing. Yeah, that's probably a ship or a hunk of a car you're looking at.
So after this thing happened, 1933, the photo's taken May 2nd. It's released to the newspapers over in the UK, too. London, and everyone starts offering £2,000 reward for anyone who can capture and kill Nessie. And so it became a heyday event where people became obsessed with trying to hunt and kill it. And now at this point, she probably, or he, whatever it is, senses all these people on the lake out of nowhere and is like, oh, I'm out of here, bye.
Yes. It got really crowded really fast. Where are y'all come from?
Well, and in 1933, they didn't have sonar, but they did start doing sonar 1960, 1970, even in the 80s, they started doing sonar. The 90s, too. Actually, all the way went into 2003. And everything comes back inconclusive.
Yeah, I remember, too, a lot of the specials that would come on. A lot of the paranormal shows that would have a special, like, we are now going to go explore Loch Ness and see if we can find Nessie, and it's always inconclusive. Every time when they're like, we're going out on the lake and we got sonar, and they'll be like, we found something. Oh, it's just a log. And
it's always
inconclusive.
Well, yeah, there was one thing that was found on sonar, but they said it was a fin of something else, so they weren't able to determine it. And then other people say it's a giant eel that's residing in Loch Ness, and I'm like, I don't think an eel would stick its head out of the water like a dinosaur, but that's just my opinion. But honestly, at this point, with all these people flocking to there, it probably knows, and it probably doesn't trust humans at this, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it would know to avoid people entirely. Like, it would know better.
Shoot, I don't even trust humans, and I'm human. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. So you want to go talk about Lake Ontario in New York? This is another. How do you even Kingstal? Is that Kingsty? Is that how you say it?
I think it's Kingsty.
Kingsty.
We're gonna go with that.
Kingsty. Okay. This might be going a little far for me, but we're gonna go with it. Supposedly, he's a fire-breathing like dragon creature, and he was first discovered in the 19th century. Okay, I feel like that's a little bit of a long shot. Like, I think the creature could exist, but like fire-breathing, that sounds like it's a little bit of like trying to scare people off, scare tactics.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and also it sounds like it's kind of an amalgamation of modern lore and more ancient lore of the area. It just kind of blended together into like a giant fire-breathing eel. Like,
Jesus.
hey.
Like, okay, the
Wow.
lore went a little bit far, but I mean, yeah, so there was sites of it supposedly in 1932. Interesting, this is all around the same time, isn't it? Interesting?
Oh yeah, no. Now looking at it, it's like you had the 1933 with Loch Ness, and then you have 1932 with Kingston. It's like, okay, what was going on?
Yeah, what's in the air? I'd like to look at the astrology for that year and be like, what was happening here? Bunch of lake monsters just hanging out, you know?
Oh yeah.
So they're saying he hasn't been sighted since 1968, so he's proclaimed to possibly be deceased. And I'm like, maybe he's just hiding from y'all. I would be hiding from y'all too.
I mean, well, the other thing is, one could have moved on to another spot.
He moved on. He's gone to bigger and better places.
But the other thing could be he could have gone into hibernation, because you do have to remember too with reptiles, they can go into long states of hibernation, especially if it gets cold enough and everything. They can become really still. And I think they used to do experiments where they would freeze frogs, and the frog wouldn't be dead. It just gets such slow heartbeat, and then it would thaw, and the frog would be fine.
Formation.
So they found that they can hibernate. So it could have gone to sleep somewhere too.
Yep, you don't know. Yeah, cat's lizard goes into formation once a year for like 6 months. And she doesn't eat either. They don't have to eat. They pack on enough pounds where they don't have to eat for like 6 months, and then they come out of it. So you're right. Hibernation for reptilians is very possible. So there's another one that's in Lake Champion, New York, and Vermont. Then they call this one Champ, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this one was sighted in the 1800s by a sea captain. And it was described as a 20 to 30 foot long neck. So we're kind of like back in Loch Ness again.
Yeah, well, it sounds like I would think this would be more of a large serpent than a Loch Ness creature, like, because that 20, 30, I don't know, that's getting a little large on the body of the animal to the water and everything. So I'm like, maybe it's just a very long snake or something.
See, that could be too. That could be possible. And then once again, they offered $20,000 reward, and it's like, why do we as humans feel the need to go kill something that we don't know what it is, or we don't understand it? It's a threat immediately, so kill it. Why do we do that as a society? I don't understand it.
I don't get that. I mean, especially when I've seen people go hunting for like Bigfoot and everything. Like, no, we actually want to make contact. We don't want to go like shooting at it or something. I don't get it.
Yeah, but like if that's the case, no one has ever been brought back with a you know, not that I want them to shoot Bigfoot, for God's sake, but nobody's brought one back. You know what I mean? Like,
no. I mean that's a whole different crypto.
Oh,
but
it is.
I think
I could go on for that one too.
They're too smart, and they know where to avoid people.
No, I've studied it in anthropology. Like, and if you go to an anthropologist teacher or professor, they believe Bigfoot exists 100%. They think it's like, we're considered like bonobos, which are like orangutans, and we like live in societies of people, where gorillas live very separately in very small like households, and they don't live with their other like creators, and they think that humans are bonobos, where gorillas are the Bigfoot. And I mean, I've seen some of those like footprints they've found and stuff. I totally believe it's real, but I think they're smart, And I think they're just like Loch Ness. They don't want to be. Just leave them alone, man. Like you want to get them. What are you gonna do when you find them anyway? Excuse me, sir. I'd like to sit down and interview you. Do you have a minute of your time? Could I just have a chat with you? Of course, they're gonna be threatened. You're in their environment. You know what I, like? What do you like? Really? What are you gonna do when you find one?
It's like, yes, I would totally want to tangle with a, I don't know, 8-foot tall, 800-pound size creature that looks like it's been able to chuck giant tractors across a woods.
Yeah,
No,
if you guys get bored, go on TikTok and look up the hashtag like Bigfoot, swamp ape, all that stuff. But there are some people that live in the Smoky Mountain area, so that's like what, Kentucky, Tennessee. It goes up to PA a little bit, doesn't it? Or more like Virginia area.
I think it crosses into the Appalachian Mountains too.
So there's people that live out there very secluded. I'm not talking about like total swamp people that are living in the middle of nowhere by themselves, but like they'll have like huge like acres and acres of land, but they post on TikTok and they talk about Bigfoot being out in the Appalachian Mountains and the Smoky Mountains, and like they're just like, oh yeah, it's out there. At 8 p.m. when it gets dark, you don't go outside, period. If you left something in your car, even your phone, you leave it there until the morning, period. No questions asked. Their kids, like, they have to put up barriers, like, certain areas of their property where their kids don't go past it because they know Bigfoot's out there. And it just is what it is, and it's accepted, and you respect the land, and you respect the creatures and beings. And a lot of them have stables with, like, cattle and horses, and they keep the stables close to home. They lock up the cattle and the horses at night because some of them have been eaten. And it's just, it's crazy. So yeah, it's interesting on TikTok. I'd love to go investigate, not necessarily Bigfoot, but be there to experience it. And because I feel like it's so untouched. I'm sorry, Elfie and I are like, we're nerds together. When Elfie and I get talking, we're like, what about this? Jeez.
Well, also, have you heard the audio? Sometimes people, they've recorded everything. The sounds, like you hear distinctly the coyotes, but then you hear this other sound where it's like, that's not a coyote. That is something else.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said these people are so just like, yeah, if you leave your cell phone in the car at night, don't worry about it. You get it in the morning. You like, and people were asking questions like, but what if you need your cell phone? And they're like, you don't go outside at night, period.
It's not worth it. You're good.
You don't even let the dogs outside after a certain time. You know, it's like crazy to me that they're just like, oh yeah, it is what it is. I'm like, Jesus. Anyway, go on TikTok and find those people because I'm fascinated by it, 100% fascinated. Okay, let's skip forward because I want to talk about the Great Lakes because the Great Lakes is really fascinating to me. That'd be another place I'd like for us to go investigate. There's, I mean, there's so many lakes up there, obviously, but there's a lot of shipwrecks that have happened in the area. Remember, these lakes are so giant that you can't see the other side. There's been people online that have captured phantom ships on the Great Lakes because ships have like got sunk on these land. People think they might be full of portals, and then to throw in the mix, they can be really violent currents. Like different times of the year, it can get really ice cold, and then there's lake monsters.
Oh yeah, I mean the storms that can brew on those is just amazing. And like you said, the ghost ships, people reported the ships that go down. It's these contained oceans essentially. So it's not a surprise that there's also all these legends.
Contained oceans. That is, oh my God, I'm blown away. Contained oceans. That is miraculous. Okay, anyway, keep going. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No. It's not surprising with you have all these Great Lakes and they're connected in various ways that there would be something large enough of multiple different creatures thriving or living in them, especially since we have difficulty even going across them and being on them at times and everything with storms and everything.
So 1800s was one of the first reports that came out, and there was like a 50-foot long serpent that was supposedly spotted in one of these lakes. Now, these lakes do have also a canal or a river that goes out to the ocean. Am I right? I think so. Yeah. No,
they have ways ways in and out and everything, and feeding into the lakes.
Now, serpents wouldn't shock me because I feel like just snakes are a thing. Like, you know, I think here in the United States, people are so shocked by that. But you look at like even Australia or Africa and the Nile, even Brazil, they have these huge giant anacondas. And they'll eat like kids and people, like legit. Like I remember there was a story not too long ago, and a whole man got swallowed by this like anaconda that was massive, and they had to find the anaconda and kill it. And they got the guy back so that they could bury him. And I was like, oh my God, what the hell, man? This is so messed up, you know?
Well, yeah, they've shown images of like anacondas fighting with like crocodiles, like these two large like reptiles going at it and everything, and the anaconda's large enough to actually take it on.
I know, and once again, I don't like the circle of life, and I don't like creatures that can eat people, personally. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's terrifying. Like, I don't think it could be that out of the question, once again. Like, anacondas are already big as they are. So Lake Ontario, I don't even know how to pronounce that, do you? It's like a huge name that they gave it for like the legend of the serpent-like creature. It starts with a G. Gasadalintha? Was that how you'd pronounce it? Gasaladintha?
Gasadinthia, maybe.
And it's
Wow,
a serpent-like creature, and it inhabits the waters, and it was first spotted August 14th of 1829. And it was obviously reported through the Gazette and all that stuff.
I think that would be very likely because it's like you have, if it has enough food, it has a large, it's kind of almost like the whole goldfish thing. If a goldfish has a large enough tank and enough food, it will get very...
Yes.
So you have a snake with enough food and large enough body of water, it can get as big as it wants as long as there's nothing there to eat it.
Exactly, 100%. Lake Erie has another one. This is like the South Bay Bessie. So since it's named Bessie, do you think that's after Nessie?
I think that was the big thing for it, that people described it similar to Nessie, so they named it Bessie as well. And it's the same idea of a basically long neck, large body creature. And Lake Erie is huge. I mean, if you ever seen it, it's a massive lake and everything. And it in itself is also very deep, has cavern. I mean, this is the pattern with all these lakes. Is they're very deep. They have caverns. They have ways in and out. So it's almost like these are the perfect environments for it.
Mm-hmm. It was first spotted 1793. Once again, snake-like grayish sort of creature. Then Lake Huron, another water monster. This is I almost said Mitsubishi, but I don't think that's right. But Mitsubishi, that's a car or a brand. But they said that they think it's like a serpent type of thing that lives in different dens and caverns under the water. So that's crazy.
Well, also, if you look at this kind of these serpent-like things, it's like, it makes you wonder, like, is it all one species? Like, it's not a family, but a species of large serpent that's been able to survive and kind of separate into the various lakes. Because so far, all of them are describing these long serpent-like things that get to, like, 30, 40 feet big and everything. So it's like they're all naming the same thing.
See, it's so weird because, like, I've never, ever liked water in general. I swear I drowned in a past life. Like, I just know I've never been on a boat. I've never been on a ship. I assume my time is coming when Ghost Girl Diaries gets on the road to film. And I'm just going to have to, like, put myself out with, like, that medication that makes you not get, like, sick. Like, just, like, don't wake me up. Just leave. Don't talk to Krystal. Just leave her there. I don't think I'm going to drown in this life. I think it's just I brought over some past life shit. You know what I'm saying? And to imagine mixing in a serpent kind of scares the shit out of me. You know what I'm saying? Like, the water's bad enough.
You see the bottom and you're like, oh, something just brushed by me. I'm out of here.
No, see, I won't ever get in the water. I'll be on the boat the whole time with, like, 8 life jackets, floaties on my arms. Like, I'm going to make it back. I'm going to put, like, a blow-up toy, like, for, like, a blow-up boat in my backpack so that I can just sit in it and, like, push myself back to shore just to be sure. You know what I'm saying?
Krystal, you ready? No. Come on. You can do it. Let's do
this. Oh, God. You just, once again, natural disasters, water. You just don't want me around it. Okay. Now, this one kind of has me fascinated a little bit. This is, like, an underwater lynx or, like, panther is what you found?
Yeah, this was the stranger one. Because, like I said, all the other ones like serpent, lynx. I'm like, where did you come from? This is unusual.
Clearly a different planet, and it was left here by some UFO that stopped in to get some water, and he's like, shit, you guys left me behind.
Someone left their pet kitty.
Someone left their pet underwater kitty. He can't get out. He's stuck on the Great Lakes. Somebody go pick him up. So he literally, they say he had head and paws like a giant cat, but yet he's covered in scales. But his spikes are dagger-like, and it runs all the way down his tail. Who the hell comes up with this kind of description? Who saw this person? Jesus. Or not person, being.
How close do you see this? Because that's pretty detailed. Like, were you like face to face with it?
Really? That's descriptive.
But it's interesting because it's like, I mean, you see, there are descriptions of reptiles with fur and feathers, so it's entirely possible to have something that looks scaly and furry at the same time. The lynx, like the cat-like description, I mean, there are species of cats that do like water, that swim around, that are just fine within everything. But it might be, this is as close as we could think of what it looks like.
Oh yeah, tigers love water. Like I love watching tigers because they can swim and they're totally adaptable to water. Now, holding their breath for long periods of time. However, if they're saying this thing is scaly and dagger-like, spikes, it makes sense then that it would be like some sort of like a mixed underwater creature with possible land creature, but maybe it is scared of people because it did get left behind by its UFO, By the way, this is where this is seen the most is on an island near Lake Superior. And apparently some of these traditions and lore of this particular being go back to like Native American tribal times, which I am digging because I'm Cherokee and I love that shit. Like I live for this kind of stuff. But there was a tribe that was there, and by the Great Lakes region, Canada and the United States, and they're the ones that are saying this creature is real, it exists, and it's there. And once again, they always respect the water because this creature lives in it.
Oh yeah, and I could see like if it lives on an island around the lake and everything, this most likely it's probably would be an omnivore and everything, so it could be likely to eat larger things than just simply like plant life and small fish and everything. So I can see where they'd be respecting, like give it its space and everything.
I want to go see this thing, man. Like I want to go find this underwater panther. That sounds badass. You know what I'm saying? Like
I said, it was one of those like serpent panther.
You're just like, what?
Wait, what? Where do you come from? Okay.
Bro, there's a panther underwater in the Great Lakes. We gotta go up there, man, and see it. Okay, the Lake Superior dragon. Now, there's a dragon as well. Let's throw in another crazy one in the mix. And this is a dragon, and apparently he's kind of the one that's the most aggressive out of all of them. Would you say that?
Say yeah, especially when you have to give it offerings and like, please. Don't do anything.
Which goes back to more Native American lore. So they'd give it offerings for it to basically go away. So I'm assuming when you're saying an offering, it would be like a dead goat or a dead chicken or something. And it would take the offering so that it would keep the creature at bay from taking the native tribe or the native people. So that's interesting.
Oh yeah, it's like just trying to keep everything good, keep the peace and whatnot. So, and that makes sense. I mean, you keep that balance and everything. You give the offerings, and then hopefully it doesn't eat.
Keep the balance, Elfie. Keep the balance.
Doesn't eat your livestock. Like, here's some food. Don't eat our livestock, please.
Like, these are my pet goats. Okay, like just don't touch my pet goats. They're my friends. Okay, Krystal doesn't use them for food. They're her pets. Okay, just leave my goats alone. Man, there's so many up there. So now you had another local one to PA, right? This is the local lake monster that you want to chat about that one because you know a lot about this guy.
Yeah, this is the race down. Now this is the more unusual one because I think race down is actually a man-made lake, and that's where it gets unusual because I don't think like it talks about how. There was a Raystown Dam built in 1905. The dam was later destroyed in 1971 to make way for the U.S. Army Corps engineer creation. Today's the Raystown Lake. So that's where the difference comes in, where you have the lakes with all the various ways to get in and out, but with this man-made lake, there's probably not as many ways to get in and out. And also, when the question comes in, like, how did it get in?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it has been speculated most likely it's a legend that was created by someone and just kind of continues to be a urban legend that is, even though most people think that it's most likely not real, they enjoy it because it's the neat idea that you go to this man-made lake and there might be an underground sea creature.
Mm-hmm.
Lake creature and everything.
See, now, okay, let me spit out my opinion on how these creatures may get here, because it's kind of how I feel about, like, the chupacabra in particular. So, have you ever noticed when, like, there's chupacabra sightings are mainly southern United States, so you're talking, like, Arizona, SoCal usually, but more close to, like, the Mexican border, Texas a lot, and probably like Florida and then Puerto Rico. There's always massive sightings for crypto for the chupacabra. So my idea or theory, it's a theory, nobody has to believe it, I just believe it, is I definitely do believe in UFOs. I believe in aliens totally, 100%. I'm not scared of all of them. I think that, our society and government has made us be afraid of them because I don't think they're all bad. I think they're probably like humans. Some are good and some are bad. But I think that they release these creatures here to like the chupacabra is the bloodsucker, right? So it like kills the goats and it kills like, all this stuff. I don't think they're necessarily feeding on the animals. I think they're taking like samples of the animals for the UFO and then taking the chupacabra back up to the station and then examining the creatures it ate or the blood that it took or whatever. And I think it could be similar with these lake monsters, because it's weird. You go through these periods where you hear about it a ton all the time. Oh my God, chupacabra sightings, and then you go years and it's nothing. And I think it's because they come down to like release their little, I don't know what you would call like a chupacabra. I don't think it's necessarily like their dog, like a pet dog. But it's something like in this sort of like, it's something where they release it to like gather evidence and then bring it back to them. It's just my theory on it.
I think that's a really cool theory because I could see something like that, because if they could engineer something that was biological, but not biological, an animal, but also retrieves what they need, like tissue, blood, whatever samples that can get into the environment, collect what it needs, and returns with causing as little interaction as possible.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
That would be pretty cool, because then all you have to deal with is some urban legends of seeing this weird creature, but you don't have to deal with I saw an alien, I saw this strange creature going after my goats.
Wow, there's like a helicopter right above my house. Maybe it's because I'm talking about chupacabras. Anyway, like if you hear the helicopter and I get abducted, sorry about that, guys. It's gonna be fine. But yeah, that's my opinion on it. You're right. Like it's a lot less sly, like than just being like a giant UFO or like an alien walking through the woods. And they always say the chupacabra has like red eyes, and like it's, they do find the creatures where there's 2 holes, puncture wounds in the neck, and nothing else is wrong, nothing else is missing from the animal. And I think that it's because they have reflective eyes like other animals, so they can see at night. They have like night vision. And they can traipse around and no one's going to find them. And that's just the way it is. And then they go back up and take the material or like, the samples back up, and then it's done.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, especially since it's like, there are animals that do, but you don't often see an animal take down another animal just because it wants to. It's like, it's always for food immediately or food for later. So the idea of it just taking down an animal and just taking a little bit of blood and just leaving it, not eating it or anything like that, is unusual.
Well, and then same with this monster and you're right. And I'm the kind of person that like whenever lore or stories get passed on from generation to generation, yes, it's like the game of telephone, people add on to it. You never know what the origins are. But the origins started somewhere, and why did they start where they started? That creature may not be in the lake that you're talking about right now because it's man-made. You said no one's seen it for a while. However, doesn't mean that it wasn't there before. Once again, do these UFOs or aliens, obviously, I'm sorry, but in my opinion, our society is very behind, okay? If aliens are driving these high-tech UFOs and we're still driving on the street, we're a little bit behind here, okay? Our society's a little bit of a baby, okay? We can't even get out of the planet right now, and they're going from dimension to dimension. So I think they put these animals here, once again, was this lake monster there temporarily to collect, like, you know, samples from the area, like the mud and the, you know, trees or the water even, like what organisms exist in the water. So I'm just fascinated by that because I really do think those stories and lore starts for a reason from somewhere.
Oh yeah, there's always a kernel of truth, and to me, oftentimes the kernel of truth is more fascinating than the lore itself. Like, it's always interesting when you finally get to the end of that thread, how this all started, and you're like, this is unusual, but this is even cooler. And also with, like, Raystown, there's the entire possibility there was something there, but because it is a man-made lake, and it was limited on size, limited on depth, and limited on food, it might have just not lived as long compared to the other ones that have more access than this one. So entirely possible it could have been around, it just didn't live very well.
Well, there's another possibility with all of these, if you think about it. We don't know what really Nessie is. We're only speculating what her full body looks like because we've created that image in our mind. You know what I mean? Like, we don't really know if it's an amphibian or if it's a whale creature or if it's a reptile. We don't know. So the question is are they living in the water or do they live on land too? Because a lot of times these lakes are surrounded by dense wood or woody forests, right? What if they live in the forest and you just happened to see it while it was in the lake? Like, you don't know. Because even if you're talking about, like, the Appalachian Mountains or the Smoky Mountains, it is so freaking dense there. I know because my dad owns property out there that I'm going to have to sell at some point that I don't even want to think about. Because it's literally, like, out in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee. And it's literally just thick forest. Like, people don't live out there. So you wouldn't be caught if you were a crypto character chilling in the middle of that, you know?
Yeah, well, also, like we were talking about, there's caves, so there's possibility of caves that lead to above ground, or caves that lead to underground. Basically, some underground caves are like these beautiful giant open spaces that are like 2-3 stories high that something could live in there and not be bothered with. So they could be living on the ground, but it's under a cave where they are, like, basically nice and safe too.
Well, and tying in some more shit to make you scared, because that's just what I do. On TikTok, they've been talking, there's, like, random TikToks that have been popping up about how people are going into national forests and they're disappearing, and they think there's, like, rabid wild people that are living out there that are like cannibals, or there's crypto characters. And once again, it would make sense because they'll do, like, you know, a search for a missing person for a couple days and then they call it off. And it's like, because, you know, they're saying that the people that are working, like, in the forests know something's out there, and it is so thick and dense and not populated that you just don't mess with it. You don't mess with it.
Oh yeah. Wait. Oh, I know which one you're talking about, because there's been times where people have gone missing, and they found them. Unfortunately, they found the body or something, or they'll find them alive, but they'll find them in places where it was like children go missing. They find them somewhere else, but they were like high up somewhere where it would have been impossible for them to been able to get up there on their own.
That happened in Colorado all the time.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, I think they stopped reporting on it publicly in Colorado because it was scaring people, because there's so many national forests and parks in Colorado. But that's when they tell you, when they say stick to the trail, they effing mean it for a reason. Yeah. Stick to the trail for a reason. Like, I think it, I mean, sure, if you want to get on, like, conspiracy theories, do cannibal people live out there that are, like, weird and, like, you know, the hills have eyes shit? Maybe. But I honestly think at this point, like, it'd be more possible for, like, the crypto stuff to exist out there too. And I, once again, you know, I know we've never shot and killed, you know, Bigfoot. Thank God. Let him live. Let Harry and the Hendersons live, man. He's just trying to live his hairy life out there. Like, leave him alone. Don't shoot him. But, like,
the cryptos gun hunting, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
That's not.
But, like, thank God they're living. But, like, nobody has brought one back. And I think, once again, I think we don't, you know, humans are egotistical, and I think you don't realize how smart these beings or creatures could be. once again, because they don't live in a society where we've sort of been dumbed down by things around us that, you know, where we think we're better than everyone else, or we're smarter than everything else. And then I think that you get kind of questioned when you accidentally step foot in the wrong place.
Also, like, me personally, if I want to go looking for Bigfoot, I would want to go in there, not to hunt it, but actually try to make some sort of contact with it, because it's one of those things where they probably avoid people as much as possible, but if they encounter a person and the person even comes off remotely dangerous to them, yeah, you're not coming out of that woods.
Well, and they probably sense these, you know, I've seen these Bigfoot hunters go in with all these weapons. Like, okay, on one side I get it, okay? You want to be prepared in case shit goes down. Like, I want to be prepared. Like, yes, I'd prefer to go just chat with Bigfoot. I want to have a Barbara Walters interview on a tree stump. However, if Bigfoot gets, you know, violently angry at the scarf the cat knitted for it and he comes for me, I need to make sure that we're prepared. So I do get both sides of it. You know what I mean? But I think that when you're out there and if you do take a ton of weapons, they sense it, man. They sense it.
Rather go in there, like, you've seen naturists where they go in and they become one with the environment. They try to change their scent. They try to not have any perfumes or washes, anything that would detract from the environment, and basically just try to live within that ecosystem to show that they're not a danger to them, see if they can observe the animals in their habitat with causing it the least amount of interference. And that's almost one of those things, like, would that be possible? And that would be very cool if it was possible.
But see, everybody wants to show the scary side of Bigfoot, which is, and I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I mean, it could very well exist. But every story you hear about Bigfoot is he's going to eat you. You know, like, there were some Siberian teens that went out into the mountains up in Siberia, Russia area, and they were all murdered in this tent, and one of the kids had the tongue completely pulled out of him. They were all murdered, and there was video footage of them, like, running from something, but it was very Blair Witchy. You never really saw what they were running from. Yes, they were dead. I'm not, like, saying they didn't die, but, like, you don't know what the narrative was behind it. So humans are going to instantly become afraid and be in fear. And then if they want to go interact, they're going to go in guns a-blazing. And I just feel like it's like, where is the balance in this, man? Like, you're right. You have to give respect not only to the environment, but, like, it's in harmony in a way of, like, it's back in the day of, like, you know, my culture, my native culture, my indigenous heritage, which is when you go into the environment of something else that lives there, you respect it. And it's the same like when my grandmother was on the res and they would hunt their food, they hunt the deer, they hunt whatever to eat. They, like, pay it's a ritual that happens. Like, it's a paying respects to this animal. This animal has given its life to the tribe. They use the skin, the bones, everything. Like, they worship the animal. It's a sacred practice. Like, you're allowing us, we give it to the gods, we thank it. It's spiritual. I still cook chicken and thank the chicken when I'm cooking the chicken. You know, like, that's just my grandmother taught me that way. And so I think that if people approach situations with not only crypto but also with paranormal, don't you agree with me, Elfie? That they'd have a big different outcome on it.
Well, I mean, and the thing is like, with, like, Bigfoot, or even these cryptos, but, like, mainly with Bigfoot, it has been able to observe us in our destructive nature, and no doubt how much we've encroached on the environment, how much we encroached probably on its territory and everything. This is probably why a lot of the cryptos say that it sticks to possibly caves, it sticks to the mountain trails and everything. It sticks to areas that we don't really go into because it's too dense or too dangerous for us, because the area it probably did used to go to is now cities and urban. So it knows how destructive we are, and it knows how to stay away from us and everything. And probably the only reason why we see more signs of it is more of a fluke, because we're encroaching more and more into its territory, and it has to find a new place now.
Well, and with that being said, tangenting a little bit, you're right. because they probably see humans come in. Remember, that's not your environment, that's where they live. Or not even them, the species of the woods, the birds, the animals, the deer, whatever, the moose, the bears, the cougars. And you're coming in there, these people are setting off fireworks, they're causing forest fires, they're shooting guns off randomly in the woods, they're killing animals. So if these creatures exist, they're looking at our species like, that is the dumbest species I've ever seen in my life, and I'm staying the hell away from them. And if we do get close, they probably do become in fear, or they just keep getting further away because they're not like, oh, I'm not messing with those people. Like, that society is, like, messed up. Like, just stay away from them.
Yeah, probably all the audios people recorded, the unusual sounds of either those are communications, or they're probably just they're warning signs of stay away. Like, I'm going to be as big and scary and loud as possible because I know if I do that, you're not going to want to come anywhere near me.
I agree. I do the same thing in my house. You know what I'm saying? I don't want somebody here. I get big, scary, and loud. I'm like, go. But it's true, right? It is true. It's a perfect example. That is their house. And like when and that's even with like, hearings, they've heard strange sounds underwater with different sonar with things. It's probably warnings. It's probably warnings. So, well, wrapping up the stream, do you think lake monsters or monsters in water or even crypto exists?
I think it's entirely possible. Like we were saying at the beginning of it, there's so much of this world we don't fully understand, so I would not put it out there. I wouldn't say that it's not. I would say it's possible just because we haven't even been able to fully explore the bottom of these lakes, let alone identify everything.
I agree. I also think there's supernatural occurrences and, like I said, phenomena around these areas. Clearly, if you're talking, particularly, all the lakes in Michigan, they're constantly having strange things happen with, like, detection, like their compasses won't work, their electronics won't work on the ships, then a raging storm will come up out of nowhere and take the ship down. So many ships have sank, so many people have died there. Then on top of that, there's just countless videos of phantom ships, which I find fascinating, considering it's on, I know these are ginormous lakes, but like, it's not even on an ocean, like it's on a lake. Like, I find it fascinating. So it does make you wonder if the phenomena surrounding it is a portal. Is there a portal there, or is the energy stuck? Like, I'm fascinated with it, personally. I am. I'm fascinated. There's one more lake I just want to briefly chat about that I'm kind of obsessed with from being a Coloradan. So Flathead Lake monsters in Montana. It's Flathead Lake. It's folklore from Montana. It's kind of off to the Idaho side if you're looking for it. It's a huge, beautiful freshwater lake. It's the largest freshwater lake west of the Mississippi. And I know growing up in Colorado, you're into hiking and you're outdoorsy and stuff, and you're like constantly on the trails, and you're like going to all these cool, like beautiful, there's so many beautiful areas in Colorado to see. But outside of that, once you've hit them, you're like, okay, where are we going to go next? And people always talked about Flathead Lake. And I remember researching it when I was younger, and there's been a supposed Flathead Lake monster. It's interesting considering, once again, we're talking freshwater. So there's no real canals out of it. However, it's a massive lake. There's some mansion homes that sit around it. If you ever get bored, just go on Zillow, because I'm just fascinated by it. So the water around the edges is very clear because we're talking fresh water, and you can literally, the stones are like rainbow stones in the water. It's beautiful. I still want to go there someday. But the Flathead Lake monster was supposedly, the legend started with Native Americans, indigenous people once again. And the indigenous people were obviously living around the lake. The lake was their freshwater source, and they would ice fish on the lake. And one day they saw antlers that were like frozen in like the lake water, and they decided to cut the antlers off. I'm assuming they thought it was some sort of like a buck or something, or maybe a moose that had died. And after they chopped the antlers off, once again, this is just a legend or folklore, is when this monster popped its head out of the water, and they realized they had just cut the antlers off of the creature. They took off running across the ice, got back, but slowly over time, people, about half the tribe, started drowning inside of Flathead Lake, and they think they're not sure if it was the monster or if it was like, you know, him getting back at them for cutting off his antlers, but there's still sights of him today. The reason I find it so fascinating is just because it's such a tourist draw for Montana. I don't know if you've ever been to Montana, Elfie, but it's Bozeman. It's a little bit west of Bozeman. Bozeman's beautiful, by the way. If you've ever have a chance to go to Montana, don't really go to Billings. Go to Bozeman. It's more modern. It's beautiful. I've been to Montana before, and I got to go to Flathead Lake, and it's beautiful. I'm not going to deny that. The stones are beautiful, but there is something strange about it when you go there. And that was the first time I've been, like, actually not just looked through a computer and, like, got to go to a crypto site where this, like, creature, and I don't know, it's oddly still. That's all I'm going to say. There's fishermen on the lake. There's, you know, people on the lake. It's a small community because it's not a huge town. Beautiful atmosphere, like dreams are made of this, where there's mountains in the background and flowers and trees and forests and clear water with these stones, and I went in the water to feel the stones, but I just remember thinking there's something off it. Like, you can just sense it. You can just sense it energetically. So I would encourage anybody that's interested in sort of crypto is don't jump in the freaking water, but just, like, go experience the energy around it, you know? Because I don't want to be...
make an offering first. Like, here's an offering. Please don't eat me, and enjoy the lake.
Here's some crackers. Please don't eat me. Okay, thank you so much. I just want to experience the energy. But yeah, it's really interesting. I'm fascinated by crypto, and I can't wait for us to be able to dip into it a little bit more as we keep going here on our Ghost Girl Diaries path here. Future-wise, Elfie, where would you want to go for crypto? Would you do Loch Ness?
In a heartbeat.
Me too.
Totally. But actually, I want to go back to the Pine Barrens in New Jersey. Like, I didn't get to fully explore that area, and that's, to me, a fascinating...
Was that Mothman?
Yeah, no, not Mount Jersey Devil and the Pine Barrens.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Like, I don't know why. I just want to go back there because the Pine Barrens themselves have not been fully explored. There's still areas where people have not gone into. And just the legend of the Jersey Devil, there's so many different stories. I'm like, I want to check that out. Like, there has to be some nugget of truth with that one.
Well, we're going to do it. We're coming up with lists for locations. Hopefully we'll be on the road soon. Wink.
Like, go here and here and here and here.
Yeah, we have some good locations already pre-planned. That Elfie came up with some really good ones that we're not going to share. You know what I'm saying? Because we're not going to share it. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, Elfie, I'm so glad we're back. Thank you for being on with me today. Yay.
Back in the game. This is awesome.
I know, but you know, I told you, everybody knows, like, we've been, you know, Elfie knows too, we've been doing some major stuff behind the scenes, and it just had to take priority and precedent, and that's just the way it is, and that's okay, because life's good. And
it's great being back here. It was much needed, but it's great being...
It's true. It was much needed break. It was good, but it is really good to be back. It's really good to be back. Next week, Shaylee's first stream. Can you believe that?
Oh, tough.
Yeah, Shaylee went through our, like, we always pick topics, like, way ahead of time. I think we're scheduled to, like, December or something crazy. So we're, like, way ahead of topics. We're on top of it. So Shaylee's next week is haunted dolls. She likes haunted dolls. She also really likes serial killer lore and, like, haunted serial killer lore. So her streams are going to be, like, really interesting. Like, she gets into it. She gets really into it. So, and she's had a lot of experience, obviously, with hands-on. So I can't wait to, like, hear what we chat about next week. So yeah, that'll be next Friday. So make sure you tune into this. This will be uploaded as a podcast. If you guys like this podcast, let us know on social media, because we'll do more crypto chats if you guys like it. TikTok is going amazing. Have you seen our TikTok, Elfie?
Oh, it looks great. I love the little videos. Like, it's been going well.
It's going... We got, like, 600 followers in a matter of a couple of days.
That's awesome.
Bam. Kat and I are just killing the game on TikTok. Anyway, and I think Shaylee's going to jump in there at some point. But, and Elfie hopefully eventually too. But we're trying to get, like, a rhythm down of like, and we've figured out what works. So if you're not on TikTok, make sure you're following us at Ghost Girl Diaries, because it's going awesome. We're getting so much support from fellow paranormal groups that have been following Ghost Girl Diaries for years. Shout out to all you guys that have sent us messages on TikTok. We're trying to follow all of the paranormal groups back. So if you follow us, make sure we give you a follow too. And yeah, TikTok's kicking butt. Okay, we broke records for podcasts last week. Yes. The podcast is going amazing. We literally broke hundreds of downloads within 24 hours last week. I am so freaking proud that we are finally at this point. I'm hoping soon that we'll be able to get some sponsorships. So if anybody's out there interested in helping sponsor the Ghost Girl Diaries podcast, please email us at krystal@ghostgirldiaries.com. But yeah, podcast is great. We also got approved, Elfie. I have all this good news. Don't you love good news?
It's like everything just lining up.
It is. It's like I have all the right people in all the right places, and we're just fucking kicking ass. You know what I mean? But yeah, we got approved for every single podcast stream. We're on Spotify. We're on iTunes. We are on every single podcast app. We're on Pandora. We're on iHeartRadio, Deezer. Like, I can't even tell you. We're on Alexa. I mean, I don't even know. We're everywhere.
Please, everyone, like, review, do the stars. It takes us a couple minutes. It really helps us. It really helps our visibility and everything. Just a couple minutes, review, star, everything.
Yep, we've gotten 4.5 star rating out of hundreds of reviews. I am so freaking proud of my Ghost Girl army. I love you guys so much. You know, it just, as a throwback real quick, like, I didn't know what was going to happen when the YouTube channel tanked at first, which, by the way, YouTube's rebuilding now that we've been promoting ourselves on TikTok. So thank God, I think we're going to be good to go to just stay on the YouTube channel. But I was really lost. And then I started the podcast. I didn't take it really serious. Then, like, you know, November, December, Kat and I started taking it more serious. And then Elfie jumped in January, February. And like, oh my God, it's just, life is so good right now, isn't it? Oh.
Mm-hmm. It's all lining up well, and it's all taking off nicely. So
yeah, so if you have time to review us, oh my God, we love you. Any chat that you can, or any outlet that you can always go to ghostgirldiaries.com to find all of our outlets, like literally. But we're on all the podcast apps now. I'm so proud. We're up to thousands and thousands of downloads and views. I am so proud of just being in this family with all of you, and we wouldn't be able to do it without you guys, and of course my amazing, fabulous crew. Elfie does all of our historical facts because she's a freaking library in her brain, and Kat does our social media management. We have another social media manager, and Shaylee, we haven't quite fit her in yet, but we're getting there, and it's just good. We're just very grateful. So thank you guys for being so supportive all these years with all my twists and turns of the agenda of Ghost Girl Diaries, but we're kicking ass. So yeah, make sure you're following us on TikTok, follow us on social media. Next week's Haunted Dolls with Shaylee. Download our podcast, guys. Merch is always up too. Make sure you go to ghostgirldiaries.com. Merch is there. Any final words of advice, Elfie? Anything like that?
don't go into the lakes unless you're prepared.
I threw my hat off because I laughed so hard because it's true. Don't go into the lakes.